Well, hello everyone again, and welcome to another season of the Mercer County Football Show here on WBCB1490.com and on our YouTube channel as well. Alongside the Trentonians, George O'Gorman, Mike Samsel with you. George, so far we've done this for 1 year. We have one state championship in Mercer County under our belt. Hopefully we can make it 2 for 2.
Well, that was a great way to start, wasn't it? How many months ago was that? I figured it's 10 months.
Yeah.
Since, I guess it was the second week in December.
Mm-hmm.
When Nottingham made Mercer County history. Well, sort of history. First time since '89 that, we had a CVC team go all the way and win the Central Jersey Championship. And they did it by sweeping 3 teams from the Shore Conference.
Right.
Doesn't get much better than that.
Yeah,
especially in Central Jersey.
Certainly not. It's something that's been pretty unheard of for Mercer County, and Nottingham is a team that expects to be strong once again this season. They really have a lot of talent back if you look back. I mean, you have their quarterback coming back in Steven Adams. Luke Westerberg graduated, but that entire backfield, which is really the heart of their strength, with Alexis Santiago, Roway Williams, those guys are back this year. Josh Lodge and S will join them in the backfield as well.
And don't forget Saquon
pretty
Hampton.
Strong. Saquon Hampton as well.
Saquon Hampton on defense already signed with Rutgers.
Mm-hmm.
So, and he's ranked among the top 25 players overall in the state of New Jersey.
Right.
It's quite an accomplishment for a Nottingham player. You got Malagrino, excellent defensive player. Hey, John Adams and his staff, hopefully they can do it again.
Right, absolutely. It was funny. John Adams and I were kind of joking around saying, hey, he doesn't like this kind of, team to beat type of role. He likes being the underdog. But hey, listen, when you return, double-digit starters from a state championship winning team, they're definitely the favorite this year.
There's no question about it. And, there should be some other teams in Mercer County that should be in the hunt for a pretty good season. We got a number of good quarterbacks returning this year.
Yeah, there certainly are. There are a lot of good quarterbacks back in Mercer County this year. Austin Fellows probably leading the way at Hopewell Valley.
And Nick Falkenberg at Lawrence, don't forget him. Rob McCoven at Notre Dame. And Dustin Coleman over at Hightstown.
Yeah, Dustin Coleman, it's funny you mentioned him. He's kind of the forgotten quarterback, if you will, of Mercer County. But that's a young man with a lot of ability. So there's a lot of talent coming back this year in Mercer County. Some teams we're expecting some big seasons from. We're going to step aside here, take a quick timeout. We'll come back on the other side, go over the teams here in Mercer County, and give you our predictions for the season. It's the Mercer County Football Show here on WBCB1490.com.
The Gator, Jerry Blavitt. And are you looking for the best local news coverage, the best sports coverage, both Philly and New York sports, and the best high school coverage? Then look no further than the Trentonian. It's the only local newspaper covering Mercer, Bucks, and Burlington counties 7 days a week. No one does it better than the Trentonian. It's coverage you can count on 7 days a week from Levittown to Burlington, Hamilton to Florence, Trenton to Newtown. It's the Trentonian.
Again, everyone, welcome back to the Mercer County Football Show here on WBCB1490.com. Mike Samsel, George O'Gorman, hanging out with you. Have a lot to talk about in this particular show, previewing teams for the season. Only one game coming up this week. We'll talk about that in just a little bit as Steiner will be in action taking on Allentown. This is more of kind of the general season preview type show, if you will. And the first team to look at, we'll look at the 3 Hamilton Township teams first. Obviously, everyone knows how strong Nottingham is. But let's start out talking about Hamilton. Hamilton has the potential to be a very interesting team this year, the Hornets and Tom Hoagland. It's a team that loses some talent in the backfield, loses some of its weapons, but they're bringing back a couple of nice players on that team. And it's a team that finished strong last year, so the hopes are high for Hamilton heading into the season.
Tom Hogan seemed very optimistic about this team. Now, they've had a couple of scrimmages. Haven't really dominated in the scrimmages, but then again, he may be still looking to find some players to fill some key roles. But Hamilton is always a team you got to be concerned about because they got some talent that always manages to come through there. Guys that you really don't know about, all of a sudden just emerge on the scene.
Yeah, absolutely. They have a bruiser on their offensive line in Shane Johnson. And when we did our Hamilton training camp reports, which you can see on our YouTube channel, I had mentioned to Hamilton that anytime you take on the Hornets, you're probably going to leave bruised.
Yeah, that's been that way for forever.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, as long as I've been remembering Mercer County football, going back to the days of Bill McAvoy and, even prior to that, Hamilton teams always left you, putting the ice packs on the next
Yeah.
day because they really, they battle hard. Before we get into a lot of things, we should mention this is a unique situation this year. We've got 5 new coaches in Mercer County coming into this season. You got Tariq Holman, who's generating a lot of enthusiasm over at Trenton High School.
Yeah, sure is.
There's a guy that played at Randolph High School back, I guess, probably 20 years ago. Then went to the University of Iowa. He's had brief stops in the NFL. He's coached at some of the major programs in New Jersey. At least he was there when they were major programs. And I'm speaking primarily of New Brunswick High School.
Right.
And also he was at South Brunswick. He was at Montgomery. He comes to Trenton from Montgomery. And there's a lot of enthusiasm at Trenton High School. And I was talking to him the other day. They had a summer program. And he said he averaged 55 kids every day that came over to Trenton High to work out. He said the kids, there's a lot of young kids, but there's some big kids. Of course, one of the key players that they don't have back, and I can understand why, is Zaire Clemens.
Right.
We know Zaire Clemens. He's been the New Jersey champion in the 400 meters for 2 years, and he's generated a lot of scholarship offers. So he's going to give up this final year of football to concentrate on track. And, of course, why not? I mean, there's an Olympic potential runner.
Yeah, absolutely.
Why run the risk of injury? So, Zaire Clemens isn't back with the Tornadoes, but Tariq Holman feels that he's got some weapons that, while not being able to generate the speed that Zaire Clemens has, they can get open and get the ball. And he's got some people that can run the ball. He's got a big line again. And the other one who we're going to miss is a young, I guess he'll be a junior this year, was Craig Monahan over at Hightstown. He's from Hightstown, and he plays for Notre Dame. He had that, we got to cover the Mercer East baseball team, Babe Ruth, the entire summer, but he never got the chance to get on the field or pitch because he developed a elbow problem, which may lead to, I don't know if Tommy John surgery or not, but he won't be back. But other than that, there's some excellent talent. You got a couple outstanding backs. You got Samai Mitchell over at Lawrence. He's an outstanding running back. Over 1,000 yards last year. Of course, one of the guys I'm looking forward to seeing how he really blossoms this year is Rawway Williams.
Yeah.
And there's some good running backs. Lorenzo Bryan at Notre Dame had 10 touchdowns as a sophomore.
And Nico Safari
is back there. Chappie Moore and his club. They got a tough opener at CB South, which pulled away from Council Rock the other night to win their opener. And they had a back that ran for 4 touchdowns and is already being recruited. Well, he pretty much signed to go to Penn State from what all indications I get. But, there's some excellent talent in Mercer County. And, we mentioned the quarterbacks. We mentioned Nick Falkenberg. We mentioned Dustin Coleman, Austin Fellows, Rob Bakoven. Don't forget Rob Bakoven. He stepped in last year as a junior and did a fine job. Lawrence, I was talking to Rob Radis. He's got 9 of 11 guys started last year on offensive rollback.
Right. And
that's something to really, hang your hat on.
Yeah, it certainly is. Lawrence, we look for a big year. We'll talk about them in just a second. Back to Hamilton Township for just a second. We talked about the Hornets. We know how good Nottingham is. We've talked about them. For the Steiner Spartans, Dan Caruso this year went to a state title game a couple of years ago. Unfortunately, that team lost a ton of talent. They lost a ton more to graduation this year. Steiner may be looking into rebuilding a bit this year.
Yeah, I think it's after 2 really outstanding years back-to-back, Steiner may be struggling a little bit this year. They lost some outstanding talent like Jeff Mattinelli. Vanel Ducis was a quality receiver. I think he graduated.
Yeah.
Because he was supposed to play in the East-West All-Star game, but he had to pull out of that. And of course, they forgot, not forget, but, we'll never forget Eddie Ashley and all the things that he did for that Spartan team. But there's a lot of holes to fill. So, but Dan Caruso and his club, they went down to Seagirt for a week of training camp. And they're all ready to go Saturday afternoon, 1 o'clock, when they host Jay Graber and the Allentown Redbirds, who, by the way, they'll be playing. Allentown opens up this week at Steiner, And next week they go out to Utah.
Yeah, they're doing the same trip that Utah that Notre Dame did a couple of years ago. Just a note for you, that Steiner and Allentown game will be on the WBCB Sports Network. Look for it live. That's a 1 p.m. kickoff, I
1
believe,
p.m.
in that
kickoff
game. So you
over
can
there
look
at Spartan Stadium.
Yep, so you can look for a 12:45 Trentonian pregame show. George will be on the call on that one. Not entirely sure who you're working with on that game,
I think it's
George.
Dan Wing.
I believe so, yeah. Dan Wing will be coming back, I believe
Makes
so.
one of his guest appearances
Yeah.
on the WBCB Sports Network.
Yeah, very excited for it. Dan, great guy. And unfortunately, I will be working with you a lot of Friday nights, but unfortunately something else has come up. So Saturdays won't quite be around with you as often, but still be here with you on the Mercer County Football Show Friday nights as well. Very excited about that. Moving on to the Mercer County previews here on WBCB 1490.com. Another team to look forward to. You mentioned Lawrence. A lot of talent coming back on that team. Samai Mitchell in the backfield is one to watch out for.
Yeah, and Cameron Kitchen is another player that you got to watch for.
Mm-hmm.
He can do the job as a running back, as a defensive back. That's the problem that Rob Radis says is we got to stay healthy.
Yeah.
Because we got a lot of kids that can play offense and defense, but we don't have a lot. You've only got 39 kids, which is unusual at Lawrence because they usually have some depth, but this year they don't. But the majority of the kids that they do have that will be filling varsity, starting assignments, do have experience under their belt. And another thing in the CVC, we were talking about Tariq Coleman as the new coach over at Trenton. You've got a new coach, Charlie Caldwell, over at Charlie Gallagher, I think it is, over at Princeton. He moves up to replace Joe Gargione. You've got Skip Evans, former coach at Hightstown, who's now come back from a stint in the Shore Conference to take over West Windsor South, where Todd Smith has stepped down and is now the offensive coordinator at Hopewell Valley. Of course, you got Irving Fryer, the former Philadelphia Eagle and the #1 draft pick years ago. Played with the New England Patriots. He's in the Eagles Hall of Fame. He's the new coach over at Robbinsville. So there's a lot of talent and a lot of excellent coaching around the CVC. I think it's 5 new coaches, if I'm not mistaken. There's one more on the tip of my tongue. I have to try to remember who it is. I don't know how I could have forgotten it. But I'll get it before the show's over.
Yeah, so that'll be something worth keeping an eye on. We mentioned a lot of new leaders around in Mercer County. One of those new leaders, as you mentioned, Skip Edwards, new head coach over at West Windsor Plainsboro South. When you look at the West Windsor Plainsboros this year, they're another team, both north and south, that have unfortunately been battling dwindling numbers.
The numbers may be up somewhat at north. I think they're dwindling at south. And they lost pretty much all their weapons last year.
Right.
Skip's going to have his hands full trying to, handle that program. And
they do have a good quarterback back in Andrew Schofner.
yeah, they do have who got a lot of time last year and developed. But again, does he have a back that he can hand the ball off to?
Right.
Skip does an excellent job, and he did that when he was over at Hightstown. They got a tough opener at Trenton. You got 2 coaches in kind of making their CVC debut, although in the case of Skip, it's a return to the CVC. But that'll be one of the opening days on that Thursday, September the 12th. It'll be West Windsor South at Trenton High School. And the other games, Ewing is at Cinnaminson as Drew Bessler's Blue Devils. And there are reports are that there's a lot of enthusiasm at Ewing. A lot of kids coming back, and Ewing always has, outstanding talent. It's just a matter of getting them all together and getting them all focused and playing on the right, not making a lot of penalties early in games that put them in a hole.
Right. You look at 2 teams that have a lot of enthusiasm around them this year in Mercer County. You mentioned Austin Fellows, Todd Smith, and the guys over at Hopewell Valley. They're a team that has a lot of enthusiasm around them. And another team you and I have been saying is coming for a couple of years. Well, it's time for them to be here, and that's Hightstown.
Well, Hightstown had a pretty good year last year. They had
just missed out on the playoffs.
Dustin Coleman, put up 1,000 yards passing, if I'm not mistaken. I'll have to check his numbers. He had some excellent receivers. I don't know if he has as many receivers back this year, but he did lead the CVC in, during the WJFL's, regular season schedule with 1,229 yards. He threw for 8 touchdowns. So, I mean, he's a big kid, and he can, I like the way he stands in the pocket.
Right.
He's a nice, big, tall, about 6'2" quarterback. He can stand in the pocket, wait for his receivers to get open. And Pete Brescia, he's an offensive guru. He knows how to put together some plays, and they got a tough opener with Nottingham, right?
Yeah, that they certainly do. That's going to be a great game worth checking out. Don't forget the Mercer County Football Show being brought to you by the St. Francis Medical Center and also by the Trentonian. And if you're watching us on Trentonian.com as well, we thank you so much for joining us here. Mike Samsel and George O'Gorman with you. Another team worth taking a look at this year. We mentioned the excitement. New offense coming in at Notre Dame this year. Expected to see and run a lot more pistol for Chappie Moore this year. Going away from the spread a little bit, heading more toward the pistol. It's going to be interesting to see how the parts come together in that offense.
And if they do start coming together early, this could be a very good Irish team. Of course, one of the key things for them is stepping outside this Mercer County, and of course stepping into another state when they play up at Warrington against CB South, and
that's going to be a great test for them to see where they're at.
It's going to be a great test for the Irish. And then they come right back, and make their home opener the following week against Hamilton. But it's an Irish team that's got some weapons and got some experience. Mm-hmm. And as Chappie said, this team, like a lot of his Notre Dame teams, is one that's going to get better and better as the season goes on.
Right.
And the Irish, hey, Chappie and John McKenna, do an excellent job there. They got a new assistant coach there, Jimmy Mert, former head coach at Hunter and Central, led him to into the state finals. Mm-hmm. Comes over to join Chappie Moore's staff, having been at College of New Jersey under Eric Hamilton, and now Jimmy's coming over and joining the Irish coaching staff, and he'll bring a lot of expertise to that program. And it was over at Notre Dame the other day, and things look good, and guy got some size, and and Mike Milazzo. Don't forget Mike Milazzo.
Yeah, plugging up the middle.
He stepped in last year, and he did an excellent job for a kid that we primarily knew as a baseball player. Mm-hmm. Did an excellent job on defense, and he's still a good baseball player. But I'll tell you what, his football skills have pretty much equaled his baseball talent.
Yeah, certainly is. Very good defensive player on that front. Also, John Diamond, a name to watch out for on that Notre Dame front as well. We'll step aside here, take a quick timeout, come back on the other side, and finish up the Mercer County Preview Show here on WBCB1490.com.
St. Francis Medical Center's new walk-in clinics are now open in Hamilton and Ewing 7 days a week. Now, when that unexpected cold or flu pops up and you can't get an appointment with your doctor for 2 or 3 days, you can visit St. Francis Medical Center's walk-in clinics in the Hamilton ShopRite on Route 33 or the Ewing ShopRite on North Olden Avenue. These new walk-in centers are manned by a nurse practitioner or a physician's assistant, and they can give you a prescription when you need it most. They even provide immunizations and physicals, and most health insurance is accepted. No insurance? No problem. Visits cost as little as $49. Appointments aren't necessary, and most of the time there's no wait. St. Francis Medical Center's walk-in clinics, now open in the Hamilton ShopRite on Route 33 and the Ewing ShopRite on North Olden Avenue, Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. till 8 p.m., Saturdays and Sundays from 9 a.m. till 3.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Mercer County Football Show here on WBCB 1490.com. Mike Samsel, George O'Gorman, pleasure to be back with you this season. Very excited for this football season. Expected to be a competitive one throughout Mercer County. And a team that we didn't mention in the last segment that has a lot of excitement around it is the Robbinsville Ravens. New head coach, a lot of NFL players on that coaching staff led by Irving Fryer. Reason to be excited with a staff like that.
Yeah, it is an excellent coaching staff. They've got a lot of expertise, but you got a team that graduated a lot of kids. Kyle Alston was one of the top backs in Central Jersey. Scored 12 touchdowns last year for the Ravens, and Chad Scott complimented him in the backfield. He had 11 touchdowns, and so pretty much Irving Fryer is going to have to rebuild that offense. And but he's got the expertise to be able to do it. It's going to be interesting to see who steps up in this new. Well, we're saying new, but in the offense that Irving Fryer is going to put together.
Yeah, it's certainly going to be interesting to look at. We're excited. It's time for football season. We finally have a game for you this week. Again, coming up at 12:45 will be the Trentonian pregame show on Saturday. Check our website, WBCB1490.com. Believe that game is on 107.7 The Bronx. Our website, WBCB1490.com, will be able to confirm that for you. Nottingham is not in action, but Steinert is taking on Allentown. A lot of new players for Jay Graber to break in that game.
Yeah, and Jay usually comes up with a couple of young kids that are ready. They're right on the bubble, ready to emerge. Jay's done an outstanding job. Last 2 years, he's had two of the best teams ever.
Right.
I think last year they won 9 games.
Yeah.
That they knocked off, handed Nottingham its only loss.
Won in number 1 overall seed in Group 3.
They were the number 1 seed. They lost that heartbreaker to Neptune in the playoffs.
Yeah.
And on a last-second touchdown, primarily, or last-minute touchdown pass, primarily because the Neptune had an excellent quarterback and a big-time receiver, and they were able to hit for, I think, 3 touchdown passes. But, Jay Graber is at 6 wins and then went to 9 wins 2 years in a row and got to the second round of the Central Jersey Group 3 playoffs, was the top seed. And it's, again, another feather in their cap. They were the only team that was able to knock off Nottingham last year.
Yeah.
So they would have to be somewhat of a favorite, even though both they and Steinert are kind of rebuilding this year. But I would think that Jay Graber's Redbirds have to be at least a touchdown favorite on Saturday at Steinert.
So we'll keep an eye out for that game again. Coming up for you on the WBCB Sports Network. Kickoff is at 1 o'clock. Big thanks to all of you for joining us here on WBCB1490.com. Our sponsors, St. Francis Medical Center, your heart hospital in the city of Trenton, and also the Trentonian. Big thanks to Bill Redner, Matt Miro, and Matt Osborne for helping us put this together this week. And partner, pleasure to be back together, and we're looking forward to another great season.
And it all gets rolling one game this week and then the whole bunch of them next Thursday.
We'll see you next week here on the Mercer County Football Show. For George O'Gorman, Mike Samsel, take care, everyone.